It's 103.9 The Fox. With me on the phone, I'm excited. It's Eddie Trunk. You know him from VH1 Classics, That Metal Show, and his syndicated show, Eddie Trunk Rocks, out of New York. Eddie, what's going on, man?
JP, how are you, man?
Oh, I'm phenomenal. I'm more excited that you are now a part of 103.9 The Fox.
I couldn't be more excited myself, honestly, and I don't say that, just lightly. I truly, really, really am appreciative of every radio station that gives my show a home. And it was great meeting you guys recently at Rockin' the Farm in Wakanda, meeting Ryan, meeting JP. And, I wish all the radio stations I want to get on were as easy as you guys to say, hey, how you doing? Hey, man, you should put my show on. And then a couple weeks later you did. So thank you for that. And it's great to be a part of the station.
Well, you're welcome. And the thing is, when it comes to carrying shows, we have to first look at what fits our audience. And I'm not a huge proponent of, carrying just shows just to have them. It has to be the right fit. We got Alice Cooper on at weeknights, and we wanted to get a good, a good interview / deep cuts with a personality for the weekends. And when we saw your show, Eddie Trunk Rocks, this is a perfect fit.
Well, thanks. That's really what it's about for me and always has been. This is actually, it's funny because my show is premiering, of course, on the Fox this Sunday night at 9. But the reality is this exact radio show that the Fox audience will be hearing on Sunday nights has existed for 30 years.
Oh, my God.
This year is its 30th anniversary. I started doing this very radio show at my local station in New Jersey in 1983, right out of high school. And wow. Very little has changed in terms of what I do with it in those 3 hours. And it's remarkable because so much of people say to me a lot, well, you got that metal show, you're doing TV, doing that. I mean, I am still through and through a radio guy. It's what I've done my whole life. I love it. And it's also what so many of the things I do came from. For instance, that metal show really was born out of my radio show. Even right down to my co-host, Don and Jim, the reason why they're on that metal show is because, and the reason I know them, is because they're stand-up comics, and they used to listen to this very radio show and came up to me like 11 years ago at a concert, said they were big fans. They listened to my show out in New York every night. It was on, and that's how we met. And then we used to hang out, and they would come in all the time and sit in on my show. And then when I put that metal show together, it was just natural for me to extend an invite for them to come on and be a part of the TV show because we had such great chemistry from when they hung out on my radio show. So it's pretty remarkable that, all the things when I look at my career, and they all stem off of this show over 30 years, and now it's great that it's going to be on the Fox.
And that's what I love about that metal show. It plays like a radio show, and it has that laid back, fans talking about, hard rock, and classic metal, the same stuff that we play, the same stuff that you play on your show. What can our listeners expect? Kind of a combination of interviews and also maybe some deep cuts?
Absolutely. The thing about my show, and I pride myself on this, is that it is different pretty much every week. And what I mean by that, it's different in terms of some weeks you're going to get a lot of music, almost nonstop music, with, of course, me jumping in from time to time with some stories. And other weeks you're going to get a lot of interview and a lot of hang and a lot of discussion and what have you. Because what makes my show, I think, kind of unique in the radio landscape today is that it is a live show. Now, in all honesty, and I'm completely transparent about everything, the show will be heard on tape delay on the Fox.
Right.
But what I mean by a live show is you're going to hear it live to tape. So it's not some polished thing. There's a lot of syndicated shows, and more power to them, but they're assembled shows, and people put them together in studios, and the host doesn't pick the music, and the host just reads some liners, and they assemble it and make it sound pretty and send it out. This is not that at all. This is actually a real radio show that happens every week for 3 hours live on the radio, and it's very reactive. I mean, 5 years ago, Axl Rose walked into my studio, and it was not planned. 5 minutes before I went on the air, I had no idea that was going to happen. So because it's live, it's very spontaneous, and things change. So that being said, some weeks you're going to get interviews, some weeks you're going to get music, some weeks you're going to get a balance of the two, which is most weeks. And it's just a lot of fun. And if something's happening, we'll talk about it. And if there's a great guest, we'll have them on as well. And musically, it's rooted in the classic stuff, 70s, 80s, hard rock and metal. But I also do play new music, and I think it's really important. There's a ton of great new music from these classic artists, and much of it doesn't have an outlet, so I spotlight that. And every once in a while, some of the younger bands that make a really cool-sounding record that kind of fits in that world, I'll have them on. For instance, this week, the first show that you're getting on the Fox this Sunday night has M. Shadows, the singer from Avenged Sevenfold.
Yep, great band.
And as you'll hear in the interview, I admit to him, I was never a huge fan of that band. I never heard anything that really got me excited about them until this new record. And when I heard this new record, I'm like, wow, now I get why people are saying these guys could be the next Maiden. And we talk about that and play a cut from the record. So when the newer bands come up with something that I think fits my audience, I certainly will have them on. But for the most part, it's rooted in that sort of sound.
And I love that. I literally, and this is honest truth, I just got back from lunch, and one of our guys and I went out, and we were actually talking about some of the newer bands. And we actually talked about Avenged Sevenfold and how, you could tell their classic influences on a band like Iron Maiden, and that kind of the prog rock, prog metal kind of thing in there. And I love that your show is going to encompass the classics, new stuff from the classics, like Black Sabbath has a new album, and it's pretty damn good. Stuff like that, along with newer bands that still fit that format. You're not playing death metal, you're playing the stuff that these fans are still going to be into.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, people that know me or watch me on TV know that I have no problem. Somebody asks me for my opinion or how I feel about things, I have no problem saying it. I never want to misrepresent myself. I was never into death metal. I was never into the more extreme stuff. I've always been a pretty straight down the middle hard rock metal guy. So if it's classic stuff or new stuff that fits that world, that's pretty much musically what has carried the show for 30 years. Also in this show this week, Mike Portnoy, who everybody knows from Dream Theater, he's on the show. I mentioned that my show's 30 years old. We're throwing a party for it in October in New York, and anyone can enter, even folks, if they want to come to New York, you could just enter on my site to get tickets. It's a free listener party for the 30th anniversary. So Portnoy's playing that with his new band, the Winery Dogs, which is a band I actually put together.
Oh, cool.
And we talk about that, and then what was funny is at the end, I just asked Mike, as your listeners will hear, a passing comment about Dream Theater, and he answers it. And I won't give it away, but it's already making news just because of what he said, because that audience is so rabid. Yeah. So it's kind of, you're going to get a little bit of everything in this first show you guys will hear Sunday night.
It's kind of cool because then you've got the live elements and the, I don't know, breaking news-ish kind of live elements of being the go-to show for hard rock and heavy metal. And now we're able to get it locally right here in the Chicago area. I love it.
Yeah, I love it too, man, and I'm really glad. I come to that area quite a bit. I'm coming to Chicago, be in the House of Blues in Chicago. Actually, I think it's on my site, but I think it's off the top of my head, maybe the 29th of September. I'm going to be doing a book signing. My second book's coming out September 24th, and
oh wow, yeah,
I'm making a stop in Chicago. I'm going to be there for a day or so, and I love coming to that area. It's a great city, and even coming to Wakanda, where Rockin' the Farm was, and that area was really cool, obviously very different. I could relate to it because I live in New Jersey, and where I live is 2 acres of woods, and 40 miles away is New York City, which is a whole other world. So I totally get the suburbs with the big city right there.
Yeah, I went to the East Coast last year, and we did a road trip to Philly through New Jersey and New York City, my wife and I. And you're right, it was almost like what we have here, but on a much bigger scale. So you've got obviously the big city, then you've got kind of the suburban area. But the great thing about it is, wherever you go, the people are pretty much the same. And when it comes to musical tastes, if they dig the same kind of music, it doesn't matter where they're at.
Yeah, absolutely. I see that a lot too. The one thing I see is that I think that people in some of the smaller markets in America, they're really a little more hungry for it. They don't get it that much. Like for us, here where I live, being such, the biggest market technically, being the New York market, I mean, I could literally be out seeing a show every night of the week, 2 at a time if I wanted to. But you get to some of I do a lot of stuff in Oklahoma as well and hosting things. I'm going there in a few weeks to host 3 shows with Motley Crue.
Oh, sweet.
And you get out to places like that, Tulsa, Oklahoma City, Durant, these smaller cities, the people are so passionate, not to say they're not in other places, but they just, some of the bigger cities, you kind of get jaded a little bit, been there, done that sort of thing. So it just seems like they're really, really appreciative when people or bands go there and show them some support as well. But for me, it's just about finding music fans that love what I do and get it, and we can connect and relate and have a good time.
Yeah, and I think, I know you said you're not a TV guy per se, but having that metal show, I think, is kind of been a nice boost in getting not only the word out there about you, but obviously about the music too. And that when you see these ridiculous MTV awards with not a rock band in sight, not a guitar in sight. It's nice to know that hard rock and heavy metal is still around, is still alive. You can still turn on your TV at the right time and turn on your radio and hear this kind of stuff. It's a nice thing that we still have something to hold on to.
Yeah, for sure. And, I hear that a lot about that metal show. I hear that from people all the time that say to me that, it's their headbangers ball, and they're so passionate about it. And I don't for a second want to diminish the importance of that metal show. What I meant by saying that I'm a radio guy is that there's people that, I've actually been on VH1 Classic as a host for 11 years. That's something a lot of people don't know. I started with them in 2002.
Oh, wow.
And the channel was in far less homes than it is now, and it was not nearly as popular. But I did 5 years of interviews that are archived and available in every genre of music with the biggest names you could think of. And they all aired. And that's how that metal show came about, because I was pushing even back then to get it going. But all of that came from my radio show, which is what I meant by saying that, I'm a radio guy, because in New York, my radio show was well known. And when this new channel went on the air in around 2001 called VH1 Classic, they reached out to me and said, hey, do you want to come audition for this, because they were aware of my radio show. So that's what I mean is that so many people know me from that metal show, and I appreciate it, and I'll do that till the day I die, and I hope to do more on TV as well, as long as they'll still have me.
Yeah.
But I don't. There's a lot of people that think, well, you're doing so well with TV, I guess, why would you even still do radio? Not like that at all. I still get such a kick out of going into my studio and doing that show that you guys are now going to have on the Fox every single week. It's still so much fun. Not to say TV isn't, and it's that metal show has brought things to such a bigger level for me, but I love the experience of radio because it's so immediate. You do something, 3 seconds later, everybody heard it, and it's just instant, and the feedback is instant. And I have complete creative control in radio where I can say, play, have on who I want. TV, obviously, it's different. You're working for a network. You have to make sure that, you play the game a little bit and make sure everybody's comfortable with what they're doing. But that's not for a second to diminish at all the importance of that metal show, because I'd be a fool if I didn't acknowledge how much that's elevated my whole profile and my whole name in this business over the years. So I'm grateful for it.
I think it's actually a bit of a compliment in a way to say that radio is still in the forefront. It's still your number one priority, and it keeps you grounded too. Because like you said, it's immediate, it's intimate, and it's something that, TV can reach a new audience to you, but you're bringing them back home to the radio, to a full, 3 or 4 hour show. Like we're having, by the way, the premiere here on the Fox, Sunday, 9 p.m. to midnight. M. Shadows from Avenged Sevenfold, Mike Portnoy, we talked about from Dream Theater, amazing drummer. It's kind of cool that you know everybody, so you're going to have these interviews available. Essentially, you never know who you're going to talk to. It could be one of the biggest bands around. It could be somebody up and coming that you want to find out more about, and that's why you got to tune in. And it's, every Sunday 9 p.m. The station's going to rock a little harder, and I like it.
Yeah, well, it's for sure. And I have a luxury, having been in this business as long as I have, and doing this TV show now, that these artists, I can relate to them on a little bit of a different level too, because I know them all. Many of them I've known for decades, and we're all kind of friends, and we all hang out. A guy like Portnoy, is a close friend. So, when people hear those interviews, it's a little bit of a different sort of tone. But I'll still ask a tough question, as people will see in the interview coming up this week. I mean, I had asked Mike about the new Dream Theater record and if he heard it. And, it's not the most comfortable thing, but as I say right in the interview, listen, I'm not doing my job if I don't do this. So, I have no problem doing that. And it's just people can answer however they want, but you got to ask those questions. And the whole mix of the music and everything is what makes it go. And it's funny for me because I meet people will come up to me all the time and they'll say they love the show. And I'm like, thanks. And then, not to sound arrogant, but I say, which one? Because there are people that have no idea that I do radio and just know that metal show. And honestly, I've met a lot of people that don't get VH1 Classic or didn't know about that metal show, and they're talking about a radio show.
Yeah.
So the one feeds the other, and it's been a really nice complementary thing both ways.
I think it's pretty cool, and you get the best of both worlds, and you still can remain true to everything you've been doing for 30 years. I love it.
And listen, man, I don't think for a second it's funny. There's a big misconception too that people think that if you're on the radio or if you're on TV or whatever, you're on some easy street living in a mansion, and not a care in the world. I mean, listen, I'm blessed that I get to do what I do and support myself and my family through doing it. But, every day I'm still working. Every day I'm still finding ways, how can I grow this? How can I make this bigger, better? What's the next thing I can do? I mean, there's really not a second that I let my guard down or rest and even enjoy it, because it still is, people would be really surprised to understand, it still is a fight to some degree to keep this music out there in a respectful manner and find outlets for it. And that's why when I met you guys at Rockin' the Farm, as soon as I meet somebody from a radio station and they want to talk to me, the first thing I say to them is, hey, how about, can I get on your radio station? I'm not looking to take anybody's job, but it's like, hey, can you find 3 hours a week for me? Because it's really still very important to me, and I still love doing radio. It's not like it's a back burner thing for me that I don't put a lot into because of that metal show or what have you. It's still a big passion of mine.
Well, something that Ryan Wild, our morning guy, also program director, and I both kind of talked about when we met you at Rockin' the Farm. You were talking to all the fans and you were mingling and that goes a long way. And maybe a lot of people don't care about that, but I think that's really important because going to that radio is intimate kind of thing. You are a fan first and foremost, and you'll talk to them. And you could have sat in your trailer the whole time if you wanted to, but you're not going to do that. And that was just one of the things that were like, yeah, this guy needs to be on here.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that, and that's something I'm very conscious of. I mean, I honestly do not consider myself anything more than a fan of this music. I'm a fan that's been able to find a way to help support it and grow it, and obviously, make a living at it myself too. But I just consider myself a fan. I don't think in any terms at all ever that I'm in any way different or above any of those people in that audience. It's just I've been lucky enough to find that those people appreciate what I do, and I never wanted to be one of those guys that hides or doesn't connect and doesn't get out there with the people and and kind of hang out and watch the show, or if they want to take a picture or have their stub signed or whatever. I mean, that's so flattering to me that anyone would care enough for that. For me to want to do that, them to come up to me to do that I would never be somebody to run from that. And, a lot of that was taught to me as well by Ronnie James Dio, who was a great friend of mine. And, we were extremely close. And he was a guy that for years we would hang out, and I would see how he would handle people coming up to him and how gracious he was. And he'd remember people's names all the time. And he was always looked them in the eye and gave them at least a good 10 seconds.
Oh, that's awesome.
And when I used to see that from Ronnie so much, and I'm like, man, that's the way you do it. That's the way you make those connections and hopefully grow a fan base.
That's just awesome to hear that. And after 30 years, you keep it grounded, and you've got, a legend, that you learned it from. I never got to see Dio perform live ever, and so, if you can take something from those kind of legends, especially ones that remained grounded as well and remained true to the fans, that goes a long way.
Yeah, one of the greatest honors of my life was when Ronnie passed away. His wife asked me to host his public memorial. And, I went up there, I went to L.A. and went to the funeral, the cemetery, and I basically moderated and hosted the entire 4-hour public memorial service.
That is pretty awesome.
An honor beyond belief to have been asked to do that, and it's something that, I really appreciate. And, I just, little things like that, go a long way in in really letting you appreciate what you have.
That is really cool. Well, Eddie, your show's going to premiere here on this station, 103.9 The Fox, Sunday, 9 p.m. to midnight. And I can't let you go without trying to stump the trunk, though.
Oh,
I got to do
my
it.
Existence.
I got to do it. You know, you see this happen on That Metal Show, VH1 Classic, and unfortunately, we don't have the box of junk here. So if I stump you,
by the way, JP, real quick, the box of junk, again, just to show the connection between this radio show and That Metal Show, the box of junk exactly came from my radio show. It was a bit that I did for years in my radio show. I actually don't do it anymore on the radio show because we're doing it on TV, but so many of these things, that's what I'm saying, came from, as people will see, the radio show, and it's really crazy what's happened with this whole Stump the Trunk thing.
Well, like the top fives and all that. And the funny thing is, we actually do have a junk box we bring to events, but it really is junk. It's like leftover prizes that nobody wants, so.
Right. Well, that's kind of how it all started with me, but they've actually now sponsors want to put good stuff in there.
Yeah. So now it's actually a benefit. So, all right. Well, I'm a big metalhead, like old school, and Megadeth is probably my favorite band. Mm-hmm. They've had a lot of different guitarists over the years. I counted 8 of them. Can you name 6 of them?
I actually got this question on the show.
Oh, really?
Yeah, with Mustaine sitting right there, actually.
Oh, man. Okay. Maybe that was why I was...
And not too long ago, if I remember, and I'm going to try to remember 6 of them for you, but
I didn't realize you had
right
that
when we did the show.
Oh, I didn't realize. It's fun. I think I've seen every episode, and I know there was a Megadeth question, and I get, okay, well, let's see if the memory is good then.
Well, let's see. Chris Poland, Jeff Young, Dave Mustaine himself, Chris Broderick, Marty Friedman. How many is that? That's 5.
That is 5. No, yeah,
and
5.
Al Petrelli.
Okay, that's 6.
There's your 6.
You got the 2 bonus ones? Who was before Chris Broderick? And I think it's drummer's brother.
Drover's brother.
Yep. Glenn Drover, yep.
Glenn, yeah.
The other one I had to look up. I had no idea. The first other guitarist in Megadeth. I had no idea who this was. You might know the name.
Was he on a record?
No, it was before Killing was released. He just was in like the same apartment building as Dave and joined the band.
I may know if you tell me because it was probably in Dave's book, but I don't remember it.
Yeah, I read. Is it Mustaine? That book? Yeah, I read that. It was good. Greg Handovit.
Yeah, that I wouldn't have known.
Yeah, I looked him up. I guess he started some band in Minnesota. I forgot the name of it, but didn't really go anywhere, obviously.
Well, you needed 6. I gave you 7, so no prize for you.
No, yeah. And the other problem is, as long as That Metal Show continues, you're on 13th season. Questions, they're all taken up at certain points.
Yeah, it's getting pretty ridiculous. I'll let everybody in on a little secret about the whole Stump the Trunk thing.
Okay.
They intentionally, a lot of times, will tell me that I am wrong when I know I'm right because they want to see me go crazy. And I often deliver that for them, as everybody watches knows, but I fall right into the trap. But the network loves nothing more than to see me get agitated and yell and kick and scream. And to that end, they will intentionally at times say, oh, no, that's not right. A quick example, Rick Allen from Def Leppard was on recently, and the question was, what was the name of the EP, the first EP, from Def Leppard, and I said, Get Your Rocks Off. And they said, nope, wrong, and the prize came out. And Rick Allen gets right in my ear. He goes, hey, mate, you got that right. Why are they telling you it's wrong? I was like, you got to be kidding me.
Oh,
so, listen, I get it. People want prizes, and people want to see the hot chick Jennifer walk out, so I don't blame them one bit. But, she can come out all she wants. Just don't tell me I'm wrong when I'm right. And,
wow.
And by the way, I don't. Another quick thing about Stump the Trunk, I don't for a second think I know it all. I mean, it's just a fun bit, but that's not me. The idea to do that bit was not my idea, and it was like it's become this thing, and I know that I know a little bit more than maybe the average person because it's been my life, but I'm not a guy that walks around thinking that I know it all about all things. So there's plenty of people that can stump me on a good day, no problem.
Eddie, thanks a lot for joining us. You can listen to Eddie Trunk Rocks every Sunday night here on 103.9 The Fox, 9 p.m. to midnight. I cannot wait for the debut show.
Thank you guys so much for having me. I appreciate it. I love that I'm on the station. I hope to be back in the area soon, and I will be in late September at the House of Blues in Chicago. So that's going to be fun because I'm going to be doing a Q&A right in the venue and then doing a signing for my second book, which comes out on the 24th of September. So if people can get to Chicago and come see me, all the information's right on the homepage of my site, which is eddietrunk.com. And it's great to be on the Fox. I'm loving being part of the station, and I appreciate you guys having me.